Hello and welcome to Zenith. I'm your host, Ed Hyland, and today our look at the world of research goes from the technology behind a very large-scale project all the way down to nanotechnology, working with science on the very smallest of atomic levels. But first, let's start by going to the fair, the World's Fair to be exact. The year was 1964, and the theme was Peace through Science and Technology. It may have been almost 50 years ago, but a group of UCF researchers at IST, the Institute for Simulation and Training, have received a National Science Foundation grant to not only create a virtual version of this historic event, but to show the technology showcased at the fair is still a very big part of our lives. The project is entitled, Come Back to the Fair.
Everyone is counting the days until the opening of the great New York World's Fair, an exposition symbolized by the Unisphere that dominates the grounds.
The Unisphere. I grew up in Queens, so the Unisphere appeared for the 64-65 fair, and it's still there today. Incredible sculpture. To walk around it, it was just the biggest thing I had ever seen that was literally a sculpture, a piece of art. A big, huge stainless steel piece of art that was just awe-inspiring to me as an 11-year-old.
It is a National Science Foundation grant in formal science education. It is almost 1.48 million. It's just slightly under. And the grant itself is designed to, we have partners. We have the New York Hall of Science and the Queens Museum of Art. And what we are attempting to do is create that full environment of the fair. And within that environment, one of the main themes of the fair was science and technology. And so what one can do in this environment is not only look at, let's say, the creation of the 360 operating system for IBM and tell how that is important today and in regard to computers today. So we're trying to do an intergenerational transfer of knowledge.
I mean, the most important thing, obviously, is the content and how the content can relate to STEM, to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And without that, NSF wouldn't care. But then, in order to make it usable, because the other part they're going to care about is you could have great content, but if nobody cares to interact with it because the interaction paradigms are lousy, because it's not smooth, because it doesn't move quickly, if it's not competitive with the game environments people are used to, they're going to walk away from it. And so that is an important part, but I want to emphasize content and the real science underlying that content is the most important reason that they fund it.
I'm learning logical science at these pavilions. Like, of course, I would learn about the computers at the IBM pavilion, or I would learn about, space travel at the space park, and that's logical. But also, what I'm attempting to do is say, like Newton's laws of motion. I can go to the log flume ride, and when I'm on the log flume ride, and as I'm being subjected to certain things, I can say, oh, the reason is because of Newton's laws of motion. And so we're trying to get them to understand and make cross connections, that we're not just spoon feeding information, that they can actually learn at a pavilion and apply it somewhere else.
Places to stroll and places to rest.
When I come online to see it, to play with it, I'm looking at something that went by 44 years ago at this point. That's a long time. For some people, people don't live that long. 8-year-olds think they won't live to be 40. But in fact, 40 years ago, there were a lot of people doing wonderful things at the fair and looking to say, the fair represents what a point in time of 1964-65. Let's look to the future and see what we can do based on the foundation that we see here. And that's what's really important for us to look at and to inspire in youth and adults to look to the future.
And in essence, the slides, they are a window, obviously. They're like a photograph, except they're, in many respects, they're better. Once you digitize them, you can get better quality out of them than you could with if you were just doing an old Kodak Instamatic photograph. The resolution on these are far superior. And so that's why we went on such an effort to secure and digitize them all. really what the environment is designed to do is to be it's a big laboratory sandbox.
The New York World's Fair of 1964 promises something for everyone. They have been $1 billion investment and 5 years of planning. See you at the fair.
The World's Fair project is to be completed in time for the 50th anniversary of the fair. Now, if you have old slides or videos from the fair you would like to share, or if you just want to follow the progress of the research project, you can visit their website at virtualheritage.ist.ucf.edu and click on the Come Back to the Fair tab. Up next, we'll see how nanotechnology is literally changing what we see, creating new and improved medicines, fuels, and even bricks. The UCF Business Incubation Program is a university-driven community partnership. Entrepreneur Magazine says Orlando has one of the most highly coordinated entrepreneurial engines in the country, and it all started with the UCF Business Incubation Program.
The goal is to get something out into the marketplace or get something published or patented that really benefits society.
Providing companies with the enabling tools to create financially stable, high-growth enterprises. Welcome back to Zenith. Now, why should a program about science and research include a discussion of bricks? Well, it's because these bricks are a product of nanotechnology and just a small part of the resume of Dr. Sudipta Seal. Dr. Seal is director of the Advanced Materials Processing Center, or AMPAC, as well as head of the Nanoscience and Technology Center at UCF. He took a few minutes out of his busy schedule to update his work for us. Dr. Seal, thank you so much for being with us today on Zenith. You've been on the program several times in the past, yes. and we've talked about your involvement with nanotechnology in projects like improving gas mileage and improving rocket fuels and medicine. Nanotechnology just seems to have such a broad usage. Why is that? How is it applied so broadly?
Well, as you know, the definition of the nanoscience is when the material gets to a level which is very small size, like less than 10 nanometer. You're talking about few hundreds of atoms. Now you can manipulate the material the way you want to. So their physical, their chemical, their mechanical properties can be controlled. And by doing so, you really open up a broad frontier of material science and engineering in that small level to a variety of applications. For instance, titanium dioxide at a small level can be used for cosmetics, can be used for fuel, can be used for photocatalytic and solar energy application. So basically you are controlling the surface the way we want to give such properties to get a wide variety. So you can actually have multiple hats under the same umbrella. Well,
let's talk a little bit about a project over at AMPAC and how you're in charge of that department now. And one of the things we've gotten some pictures of in the past is how the surface of the metal is being manipulated. Can you give us an idea? I mean, why would you want to? Why get into a metal? Why do you change that surface? What's the advantage there?
Well, if you look into applications in engineering and other fields, you always have to improve the performance at a lower cost. And so the only way to do such a thing is get the advantage of the technological frontiers, where either you take a metal or you take an oxide and you keep changing the placement of the atoms. And by doing so, you keep changing their properties. So in one particular platform, you were trying to get all kinds of applications, like if you have a little small radio, you can have multiple channels. So essentially this is one of those things, like having multiple applications under one platform, and I think that's not only very beneficial, but I think we can control it the way we want to for the benefits to the society and the mankind.
We talked, or I was mentioning metal, for example, some other items that were non-organic, but it also has organic uses as well.
Sure.
And one of the projects you've most recently been involved in is trying to prevent cell damage. Could you explain how that works?
Yeah.
In nanotechnology?
Well, here we worked on this material which used to be for catalytic converters or coatings for energy or prevention of high temperature degradation. We have found this material to be antioxidant, and I work with folks like Dr. William Self in this campus in School of Medicine and others from outside that we're continuously looking into this material for a variety of applications, from cancer, from eye diseases, from anti-inflammation drugs. Recently we got a project funded to use this material into sensing some of these reactive oxygen species that happens in the brain for brain damage, which has implications to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. This is a project with Boston University Medical School just going to kick off. So this is something we did, and this material regenerates. So a few doses works for a long time, unlike like vitamin E and other antioxidants out there. And more work is on the way. We were fortunate enough to garner fundings from National Institute of Health and as well as National Science Foundation to work further. So we are kind of busy for next 4 years, and we are also looking into how to get to the next stage with the FDA trials and all those things.
It almost sounds like there are so many potential applications
on one material.
With one material that,
Yes.
that you would end up, you would have to spend a lot of time. It just seems like it's such a broad palette
Yeah.
that focusing on one particular avenue. I mean,
Yeah.
it just seems like you could have many dollars and many avenues traveled
Yeah.
before you would come up with one. Oh, well, it does work here. It doesn't work there.
Right.
Does that make it more difficult when you have something that's so broadly applicable?
It makes more difficult, at the same time more exciting, and it actually creates a more interdisciplinary environment. And I think one of our goals for the university is cutting-edge interdisciplinary research. So while I focus on materials aspects, my colleagues, either in chemistry or physics or biomolecular science, focus on the other aspects. So in that way, we are blessed to have excellent faculty and staff member in the campus which can take this type of material and their application forward, and it was an invention from UCF. So there's more exciting frontiers to come, and I believe this material will have a lot of potential. And in fact, this particular material is also on the list of National Characterization Institute at Washington, one of the materials that is in the hot list as well.
One of the projects that we had chatted with, it seems like yesterday, but it's been a little while now, was your project involving utilizing the material, the nanotechnology, and fly ash. I mean,
Right.
taking and actually starting to work with it in so-called green areas.
Right.
now.
Right.
And that's an exciting area that's
Yeah.
starting to get some dollars behind it.
Yeah, so, and then we have formed a company at the UCF incubator called Ensol Gel. The product name is called Zero Crit. That means zero carbon emission concrete. And right now we are at a stage to do scale up of these materials for potential companies who are interested to evaluate our material. So we are at a stage. So very exciting. We have gone from laboratory environment to a real company to set up a real lab for pilot manufacturing of this material in a little larger scale.
Explain a little bit. We did, when we were working with it and doing
Right.
the story, it was,
Right.
you were just working with small bricks, but tell folks exactly what
So
Zeocrete is.
right now what's happening here is that in order for any company to really evaluate our material, they need pounds and kgs, and we are not geared up in the lab to do such a thing. So we are setting up some chemical reactors which will be capable of producing probably a couple of kilograms a day, and that can be evaluated as part of concrete into various companies, and one of the companies can be Schlumberger for their oil and drilling environment. They use a lot of cement. So if they find this particular material very useful, that will be exciting for them, because cost-wise probably will be very competitive. At the same time, you're taking a waste product to a value-added product into this.
Now you're actually taking a fly ash. I mean,
It's
something
fly
that's
ash.
thrown away, or actually very difficult to throw away
Right.
from the aftermath of coal-fired
Right.
generating plants.
Exactly. So, you know, this is no difference than what I'm working on my nanoparticles. We're doing surface modification. So this is nothing but a surface modification. And a process came from Sol Gel. That's where the company name called Sol Gel. So under this company, we can have other products. So not one, but a number of products in future. So that's the way kind of we created the name. So it's just a surface modification, and quite simple, and can be scale up. No fancy things, but if you have the right chemistry and the right engineering aspects built into it, I think it's pretty doable. We have done it in a very small batches. Now we'll see what the challenges lie ahead for the larger batches to produce. Yeah.
Now you've been working here at UCF for several years. Has the environment changed involving nanotechnology in terms of its
Yeah.
importance, and also these days it's a tough economic environment.
Right.
Is it more favorable to try and get some of the dollars that might be out
I think we are blessed with Nano Center, and I'll be directing that center, and we have excellent faculty and staff, and their research are recognized by National Science Foundation or Defense for the Young Investigator or the Career Awards, and they're really in the cutting edge of nanoscience in the world, which has attracted a lot of dollars and the fame to the center and the faculty, and as well as people from AMPEC, who some of them are doing very cutting edge nanoscience as well. So because of the excellent capability of the faculty and the staff on board, I think the dollars will be attracted for betterment of the science, especially in the nanoscience and technology.
As a final kind of wrap up to all this, I know you've been involved during your time here with students. A lot of students
Right.
coming from literally all around the country.
Right.
Give us some idea of the importance of not only working with the students and kind of the next generation, if
Yeah.
you will, but also the way that kind of works out and kind of spreads. In other words, what they may learn here, how that's being taken to other institutions, and kind of spreading the word, so to speak, about nanotechnology.
Well, yeah, I think that program has been worked out very well. You know, we get continuous emails saying that they want to get involved in our laboratory environment and want to pursue engineering and science field with a nanoscience flavor. Having said that, our Nano Center is the first one to launch a student-led conference called Nano Florida, and this is the first conference led by the students on nanoscience by UCF, and where almost 150 to 160 students are going to show up to present their work in the whole state of Florida. So I think we have made a name for ourselves to really disseminate our technology, our information, our capabilities to the student organization. It started last year, and it is only going to grow popular as we move along. So I believe this is one of the first such nano conference led by students from UCF.
Is this kind of not only the student involvement, but nanotechnology? I mean, are we really just beginning to understand and utilize this technology?
Well, beginning to understand probably happened long back. As you can see, chemist and physicist has been doing atomic manipulation for a long time. But the getting into application and the technological revolution of the nanoscience probably is much more now and more to come if we can address the potential problems of the nanomaterials fate in the human life. We call it nanotoxicity. And so as we look into a lot of good applications, we also look into the other side of it. And as soon as we really prove that it's safe to use, I think you will see the application of nanoscience and technology in our day-to-day life.
We will have to get you back and get an update as nanotechnology and also your directorships move forward.
Yeah, thank you, Ed.
Dr. Seal, thank you so much for joining us. And you stay right there. We'll have much more right after our Research Minute.
One area of research in my lab is neurofibromatosis type 2. This disorder causes tumors to grow in the nerves in the head and body. And usually they form on one or both cranial nerve number 8, which allow us to hear and maintain our balance. So there is no treatment for these tumors called schwannomas, other than to surgically remove them when they get too large. The downside is that removing the tumors often leads to complete deafness and facial paralysis, so that it's very difficult for the surgeons not to damage the nerve that also controls the muscles that allow you to speak, smile, and chew your food. So what my lab focuses on is trying to develop an effective therapy that will slow the tumors from growing or keep them from growing altogether. The approach my lab is taking is to study the behavior of Schwann cells that form the tumors.
And we have once again come to the end of our program, but certainly not about the stories of research at UCF. Join us every month here on UCF TV for a new Zenith program, or set your own schedule by finding us on the web at ucf.tv. The goal of research is to better understand the world around us. Our goal is to be a window to that world. I'm Ed Highland. Thanks for joining us on Zenith.